prominent in our community. According to my notes, I have that Roberta Grant and Brian Vincent met while working at a canning factory in Toronto. And then they moved to Espanola, our lovely town, and spent their entire married lives here, where they raised 5 children. Now, they both had a passion for baseball, and so they were very active along the North Shore playing fastball, because fastball was a very popular sport at the time, and that has evolved into slow pitch, and we still have active slow pitch in this community. So we had, Roberta was a coach, she was a mentor, she was a friend to many people in the family, and so what we are doing is we are dedicating this ball field in her name, and we have the family here, which is nice, and lots of friends. So thank you for coming out for gathering this. So I'm going to turn this over to Kevin. Okay, Kevin, and he's going to say a few words as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Mayor Jill, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out for this dedication ceremony this morning. When I was 7, 8, 9 years old, I used to sit here and watch the games, and when I got to be about 10, 11, 12 years old, I was lucky enough to be mentored, if you will, by both my mom and my dad, who were incredible baseball and softball fans. And I got to play in, back then we had an A League and a B League, and I got to play in the men's B League at a very, very young age, 10, 11, 12 years old. And so I grew up on this field, and my mom was there for every single game. If she didn't make it, it was because she was doing something else with another member of our family. And when Mayor and Council looked at the proposal to name this ballpark after my mom, I expected there to be a sort of a debate, you know, should we do this? 60 seconds, I think it took. It was unanimous. And for those of you that knew my mom, she was remarkable in a lot of ways. She had a very challenging childhood and found her way to Espanola and raised 5 kids. I'm the oldest of 5. There's Lisa, Sherry, and Leslie, my sisters, and Derek, my brother, who lives in Southern Ontario. And in addition to that, when my mom started getting actively involved in both fastball and slow pitch and even Little League, when I was playing Little League baseball, she was involved as well. Scorekeeping, umpiring. She was at this ball field all the time. Almost every night, I would say, she would be around this ballpark if there was a game going on. She eventually became the president of the women's fastball leagues, was heavily involved in organizing tournaments. She kept statistics for the men's league on an ongoing basis, statistics for the women's league. Stats that would show up in the paper were often because she had put them together. In addition to that, after all 5 of us were in school, she started working for the school board. She started off in the secretarial pool and eventually found her way to the guidance department. And she was what we would today call the executive assistant to at that time was called the Indian Guidance Counselor, which today would be a First Nations guidance counselor or an Indigenous guidance counselor. And these young Indigenous kids would come in to see the guidance counselor, and they would sit with my mother for quite extended periods of time. And she got to know them. And eventually, when that guidance counselor, his name was Charlie White. Anybody remember Charlie White? There you go. When Charlie moved on, my mother got that job. Little over 10 years ago, when she passed away, we had a very small service for her. And when we were at the cemetery, it was very solemn, mostly family members. And to this day, I regret not remembering the name of this gentleman that came over, but he was a chief from one of the First Nations communities on Manitoulin. And he said, "Do you mind if I speak?" And I said, "Please go ahead." And he spoke as a chief of his community, and he talked about my mother. And it was very, very powerful. He talked about her influence on young Indigenous kids and how some of them have grown up to be doctors and lawyers and engineers, and in his case, a chief, and the impact that she had in giving them the confidence to look ahead and to be all that they could be. And so my mother, she did that with all of us, all 5 of us, encouraged us to be all we could be. And when the opportunity came up to explore whether or not council would consider this, I reached out to the McCarthy family to make sure that they didn't have any issue with that. And in fact, they were quite supportive. They wrote letters of support because both Mike and Kim McCarthy knew my mother as well. Kim, in fact, played ball with her. So before we unveil a sign, I know there's several people in here that probably have had experience with Mom, and if anybody wants to share a thought or a comment or an observation, that'd be great.
Hi, my name is Brian Assinewai. I went to the high school here back in 1977, back in 1981, and I knew Roberta Vincent. She was the school nurse when I first started here, and she worked alongside Charlie. And as time went on, I got more and more familiar with her. She was a great influence on me. I'm a department manager on my home community. I'm a rental property housing manager right now. And I'm nearing the end of my career, so I was glad when I saw this posting. I knew I had to come here. I had to honor her. I saw her that fall before she passed. I saw her in town here. I gave her a huge flirt. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.